when we talk about comedians and salespeople and how they're both authentic, your favorite comedian gets on stage in front of millions of people, sometimes on Netflix or in a live room, and they say the most personal things that like we'd be embarrassed to tell our therapist in private, right? That's the authenticity that they can give. But as salespeople, we get real cagey sometimes when we think we want to tell people what they want to hear or close a deal. And so when I say how to be authentic as a salesperson, the best example I can use is understanding the outcomes we sell. So at a high level, salespeople sell business outcomes, personal outcomes, and emotional outcomes. Let's go through that real quick. Are you familiar with those terms, business, personal, and emotional outcomes, Jack?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So when I think about business outcomes, it's how much money can my solution that I'm selling either help my client make or save? And when you can put that into context, you can really have a more authentic conversation. Because if this solution, and I'm just going to make up numbers, if this solution is only going to net your client $10 and the investment they have to spend is $8 and you're looking at a $2 difference there, it's like, that's not worth it. But if this solution is saving them hundreds of millions of dollars and it costs $50,000, now you're able to have a more real conversation. The story I have is earlier in my sales career, back when the iPhone first came out, I was selling mobile development back-end apps, big time apps for like FedEx, T-Mobile, Meijer grocery stores. And this was like a scary thing for me because I like a small SOW was like $250,000. And then to do the whole back-end development could be in the millions. And so it was a team sell. I was the sales guy. I brought really smart subject matter experts to flank me. Yeah. We'd nail the presentation. And then when it came time to give that investment estimate, I'd be like, okay, and your investment estimate is going to be $60,000 a month for the next 6 months. But if you think that's too expensive, we'll go back right now. We'll get you something cheaper. We'll rescope it, right? And I couldn't even get that out with a straight face because that was a lot of money for me in my world. Where I was coming up short though, Jack, is I didn't understand that this mobile app that T-Mobile was using in their customer support was going to shave off, 20 seconds per customer care call, save them hundreds of millions of dollars. I could have given that investment estimate and been like, yeah, and that's nothing, right? So I think what my point is if you're more of a order taker or a transactional salesperson that's just pitching price or pitching a menu of options and you don't understand the value, you don't really understand the outcomes of what your solutions provide, you get caught up in that stuff and you can't be as authentic. You got it. Yeah. So personal outcomes would be things like, we're going to save you time. You're not going to have to work 80 hours a week. We're going to get you recognized. You're going to get your bonus. You're going to get your promotion. Emotional outcomes are things like, we're going to create certainty, reduce risk, peace of mind. It's easier with the business outcomes to do dollars to dollars. But yes, when you're understanding what that's worth, that's how you be authentic like a salesperson, like comedians are on stage. Yeah, what I talk about in Pitch Labs a lot is you are the differentiator. In services, it's super hard for not only for you to differentiate from the competition, even if you think you're differentiating, a lot of prospects, a lot of buyers can't necessarily tell two teams apart or tell, based off of the services you're providing. Services is not different in understanding what the outcomes are, but services, I believe you got to do more to build that relationship. You have to do more to create value all throughout the sales process in order to build that trust. And like with me in my business, I try to do at least a workshop or two. I try to do specific things to make my prospects feel comfortable with me quickly and to reduce their risk. So I think some of the big mistakes, and I understand why some companies do this, but some of the big mistakes that services companies do is they don't demonstrate a lot of value in the sales process, and then they want you to sign a minimum 6-month contract. That's a lot of risk for a prospect until they understand you. So my advice there is, what can you do to prove, not talk about how you're different, but show that you're different, demonstrate value, provide a lot of free value within that sales process. And then what are you doing to really reduce risk for your prospect, that they could take a step forward and feel like, hey, if this doesn't work out, we can bail.